start. And of course, you should see up on the screen, I just want you to see that we are using Zoom so that one of the other individuals who's going to be presenting will be able to be a part of this. And when we get to that part, I'm going to explain who these people are, but I will tell you this, she is joining us from Crown Point, New Mexico. And if you don't know where that is, it's on the Continental Divide, about 25 miles from, you turn off of Highway 40 onto, through New Mexico and head up. This is not that far from the Arizona-New Mexico border. How far, Maureen, would you say it's about an hour and 15 minutes?
About an hour to the border.
Okay.
And about an hour and a half to the Colorado border, north of us.
Okay, so you get an idea, but they're right on the Continental Divide and they're at a Navajo reservation. And we have been there now since, was it 78?
82.
82, okay, I get Korea and this one. Korea I know is 77, and I always just want to add a year. But anyway, so we'll be coming back to them in just a few moments. Okay, I would like to at least give you a little bit of a background for this particular talk, because every one of our talks this year has a little bit of a different thing. The only common connection to all of them is going to involve the adorers of the blood of Christ in some form or another, okay? I just wanted to tell you that we have actually done programs that have been between the sisters and other individuals here at the university. I only know of one in particular that directly involved the student body as well as that involved faculty and staff with the sisters. And also, actually, chaplains were involved in this one too. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you, and I'm only going to speak to those that started in the late 1970s. I didn't want to do any additional research, so I started with those that I know of that occurred during the time that I've been here. One of the ones, the very first one I can remember, was called the U program. And the U program gave you an opportunity, and this was all voluntarily. One of the programs that was actually done was that you could pair up with an adorer, or in this particular case, the chaplain, who was a member of the Missionaries of the Precious Blood. So there was a connection that way. And they could decide how often they wanted to get to meet, and etc. And they came like, it was a mentor relationship. And a number of students participated in this. I was a part of it also. Another program that I know has existed is we've had a program called Secret Sister. And we've also had another one, an Advent Angel one. Now, I'm sure there were others, but I just mentioned to let you know this is nothing totally new. Okay?
What was Secret Sister?
Well, how about if I wait just a second on that one? Okay? All right.
Inquiring
Okay.
minds.
All right, okay, and I will make sure I tell you.
Okay.
The current project that we have this year, or actually started last year, we started it at the end of January, but it was mentioned earlier than that. And it was a program that was brought by a staff member and a faculty member to me. And they were saying they wanted to do this, a new project. Well, I knew that it wasn't new. It was new in the sense that they had an idea, and their idea was a little different. But matching members of the Adorers of the Blood of Christ, or the ASCs, with individuals here, that had been done. And so my suggestion was, I said, why don't we build a committee, including the two of you, myself, and then I'd like to invite a couple of other people. One individual, I said, hey, my memory is beginning to fail, so I said I got to back that up, and I wanted another sister there, a sister that had experienced the U program, and so I invited Sister Betty Adams. And by the way, Sister Betty Adams is preparing for the ice cream. So I can tell you that's why she's not here. And then the other person I said is, The Advent Angel and the Secret Santa, I know were Rosemary Needham's ideas. And so she started those. And because of that, those were two, but I know there's others that had happened. And so, and you want to answer that question?
Secret Sisters ran for a few years, and that Sisters at the Center and other sisters were matched up with faculty, staff, or students. The sisters agreed, they didn't know who each other were. The sisters agreed to pray for Newman students for the whole year. The people at Newman agreed to do something monthly for the sisters. And at the end of the year, then we had a little reception and everybody could reveal their identities. And it was very popular. People enjoyed it a lot while it ran.
Okay, so now, what was this program that was suggested? Oh, and by the way, so Rosemary Needham's was invited because of the fact that it had also come to the provost that Kim Long was invited to be a part of this committee also. So there was a group of us that were meeting together to see, how do we pull this off? Well, what was the idea? The idea was, let's match faculty and staff up with sisters, those who want to participate. Well, at first we said we better start with a small group. So who are we going to do this with? So part of it was we're going to use new faculty and staff, and we had to limit it. So we picked these dates. We said anybody who has joined us from January 1 of 2017 to December 31st of 2017. So one calendar year. And then from that, anybody who fit that, anybody who was a new full or half-time faculty or staff were invited. Of that, 9 decided to participate, okay? And in the meantime, I had worked to see if we could get sisters that would be willing to do this. And we had several sisters. In fact, we didn't have a chance to match all of them up, so we had some in reserve. But we found individuals who said they were very willing to do it. Today, what we're going to do is you're going to actually have a short presentation by 3 pairs of these individuals who all agreed. And of course, you know what I did? I promised them a free lunch. Now, Sister Maureen, we couldn't figure out how to do it, so I'm going to owe her big time later. But the thing is, of course, everybody else this year gets a free lunch too. So anyway, but they knew this, and they were very willing to be able to share. So, we got started, in case you're wondering, when did this thing start? It got started the end of January of 2018, and as I told you, 9 pairs of individuals started in this. So what we're going to do next is we're going to have these little presentations of these pairs, and we're going to have them come up here, and I have a second mic, and I'm going to turn it on, which I was supposed to do with my other one too. It's given explicit directions, so that you'll actually have 2 mics to be able to do this. Now, Sister Maureen, who, by the way, was here at the university. I know you also taught at our high school prior to that, but we're here at the university through, I would say I know you were here toward the end of when in the 70s? I can't even remember exactly.
I think I left in 77, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, she actually was serving on our leadership team also, and at the end of that is when, and she was on the leadership team with Sister Angie, who helped us with the singing a little while ago. And as I say, she's been at Crown Point, and if you don't know this, this is where very often we send a service group, usually at spring break. And so anybody who's really interested in this, your contact is always going to be Jane Weiler. Now, Jane was going to try to be here. She knew about this, but I'm not sure that she was going to be able to show up. So with that in mind, you know. Rosemary Needham's would also be another place. And of course, it's done through campus ministry. So there's another place that you might know about in regard to it. And she is paired up with Emily Simon, and we're going to have them go first because we weren't sure about all this technology stuff. So Emily is a graduate of Newman University. after her first year, after she graduated, she spent a year in Korea, and she returned to us and worked in the archives for a while, so a few months, and then was hired as a graduate assistant student, well, as a staff member. But because she's in a graduate program, that was one of the things that they were looking for. And she works on the library staff now and supervises the student workers and probably does a lot of other things that I'm not sure of. And so Emily, if you want to come up here also, and those of you who were here early know that they saw each other for the first time a little while ago. So you people are on.
I was really hoping we didn't have to go first because I don't quite know what format we're going to do. We're just going to improvise. It's going to be great. So I originally wanted to join this program because I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to stay with the sisters, the ASC sisters in South Korea. And that was just such an interesting experience, and you get so used to what the ASC sisters do here that you kind of forget that they do other things as well. And so it was really interesting to learn about their mission there and all of the activities that they were involved in. So I wanted to get to know some sisters. Sister Maureen, why did you want to do this?
That's fine. Go ahead, and when you're ready to stop, then I'll talk.
I think some of the things that I've learned from this, we had kind of a difficult start. So if you send a reply and you don't hear back for a while, then you should probably send another one because chances are email just didn't work or didn't get to them. So there was a period there where I thought I had replied and she thought she had replied, and none of us were really talking to each other. We figured that out. And I've just learned a lot about what she does in Crown Point and the mission that they have there. And I want to visit. I wonder if staff members are allowed to go to Crown Point.
Yes,
I don't know. Yeah. So we can see each other face to face.
And that's a treat. That's really a treat. So I greet you this morning, or I guess it's afternoon there, from the Eastern Agency of the Navajo Nation. We've just had 2 other ASCs here for the last week. They've been visiting, and so we've been doing a little bit of touring, and that's been good. One of the questions that Sister Charlotte had sent that she thought maybe would be good to answer would be, what drew me to the program, why I wanted to participate. And my reason was because Newman has been part of my life for a long time. I graduated from Sacred Heart College, and then I worked in many places, and I had the opportunity to work at Newman as Director of Publications and Public Information, a title you don't even hear anymore. But I loved that job. I loved working there at Newman. While I was there, we changed the name from Sacred Heart College to Kansas Newman College. And going through that was an interesting procedure. So I always kind of tried to keep up with what was going on with Newman, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what was going on in my life at the time. And I was delighted to be paired with Emily because I thought this is a good opportunity to learn a little bit more about the heart of the college, the heart of the university. And I still call it college a lot of times, so you know where I'm coming from. But as Emily said, we did have kind of a hard time getting our act together at the beginning, and I didn't quite know what to do, and I think she didn't quite know what to do, but with Sister Charlotte's help, we were able to talk to one another. So we email back and forth as we have a chance to do so, or if questions come up that we want to know something about. So that's how come I came to the program, and I think it's a good thing. I think we'll all benefit from it. And I know it certainly will keep me more in touch with where part of my heart is. Most of my heart is out here, but I still have a little piece at Newman.
I would also like to add, I got to go to Rome for the first time this summer, which was amazing. But I got advice from 2 ASC sisters about what to do in Rome, so I got travel advice. So there is that benefit as well.
Did you go to the sisters in Rome?
I didn't. I was with a couple of friends, and one of the friends had really scheduled out everything that we were going to do. But it was nice knowing both of the sisters I was communicating with gave me the contact information of the sisters there, and they were like, if you need anything, you know, you can always go say hi. So that was just kind of relieving to know.
Thank you very much. In our next two, the sister that's going to be joining us up here will be Sister Fran Schumer. And you will recall that Sister Fran is a volunteer that works in the registrar's office, and that she also talked to us on the day of the Fall Institute and let us know that she felt a little bit more like she knew us because of the fact that she has now been here at the university. She'd always heard a lot about us, but now got a chance to see this firsthand. And her partner is Beth Fatkin, and Beth has been here now for, well, it will be a year very soon. It's like right now almost.
It was a year, August 10th.
Okay, August 10th. I knew that it was around this time, but you know, the more I think about it, when I see Beth, I always think it should be 2 years already. But, you know, time moves for me now. So anyway, so with that, I welcome them up here.
I was fairly new to Newman when this opportunity came up, and at that time I knew very little about the ASCs, or for Newman for that matter. But I was really interested in learning more about the ASCs and learning more about Newman, so I signed up, filled out the survey, and I was paired up with Sister Fran. Sister Fran and I immediately started meeting for lunch once a month at the ASC Center. And by the way, the food is fantastic. I have to add that. I look forward to this every month for the company and the food. On our very first meeting, Sister Fran gave me a tour of the chapel and explained the statues of Sister Maria de Matias and the Young Mary, which I love, and the significance of the stained glass at the front of the chapel. I've learned a lot about the ASCs. I've learned a lot about Newman, but this pairing has actually turned out to be something extremely personal to me, both in my spiritual journey, but it's been wonderful to have a trusted friend and confidant. When we started meeting, I was taking a theology class here at Newman, and I had just started RCIA. So every lunch meeting, poor Sister Fran, I came with a ton of questions. It was just like boom, 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 boom. So, let me see where, I've got notes. So Sister Fran invited me to start attending Mass every Sunday morning at the convent. And I would just sit there and I would be filled with such a sense of peace and warmth, and I just knew that the Catholic Church was the place for me. Also, during this time, I was at the Salvation Army for 17 years, and then all of a sudden, I started a new job. My 2 oldest boys are officers in the Army, and they had just both been deployed. And my youngest son was struggling with mental health issues, and it was a really, really tough time. And along with the questions, Sister Fran would listen to my life, and there was absolutely no judgment. It was just kindness, and she would offer some insightful suggestions. So I have learned so much, and I'm currently reading, very slowly, The Obedient Rebel, and I look forward to learning more about our foundress, Sister Maria de Matias.
Thank you so much for this program.
Well, the reason I got involved was I originally joined the ASCs in the St. Louis area in the former Ruma province. And I've always heard about Newman University. And on the times when I've had an opportunity to be here for programs or whatever, I've always been extremely impressed and very touched when I've heard stories of alumni and the students. So I've always thought if I ever had a chance, I wanted to be more connected with Newman. Well, 3 years ago, I made the decision to move out here to Wichita. I always say I turned 70, spent 50 years in the community, and decided it was time for one last fling, so I moved west. And I've never regretted that decision. I had other employment when I originally came to the area, so when I had a chance, I'd come over to Newman. But some things changed in my life last year, and when Charlotte offered this program, I thought it would be something that I would like to be part of, to be able to share the passion that I have for ASC and for who we are and what it is that we're about. I've certainly enjoyed the relationship with Beth. I feel that I've gained a friend. I can guarantee you that the spirit works in this program because I think we hit it off immediately and kind of never turned back. For me, one of the things that some years ago I was struck by in doing some reflection when I was asked to do a presentation on Jesus' ministry is that so oftentimes we concentrate on the first years of Jesus' life and the infant narratives are the last 3 years of his life. And I always wondered, what happened in between there? You know, we're looking at a 30-year span. I mean, we know when he was 12, he went to Jerusalem, but other than that, we don't know anything. And I'm like, so I love to sit around and imagine what Jesus did during those years. I have to believe he ran the carpenter shop in Nazareth, maybe traveled to other communities, but he dealt with people all the time. So to me, Jesus had three ways of ministry. His direct ministry in terms of healing and feeding the hungry. What I call his systemic change ministry in terms of challenging the religious leaders of his day. But most of his life, Jesus' ministry was a ministry of presence. And I have found that over the last 15 years of my life, that's been a lot of what my ministry has been. And this program has allowed me to continue that in a very special way with Beth, being able to share her story, share my story with her, and to walk together the path that we have here. So, for the geniuses that thought of this, thank you very much. And, I guess I would just strongly encourage those of you who are new to consider joining the program.
And now our third group, and certainly not supposed to be like the last or that, but we had to put it in some order. And by the way, I actually noticed that in this particular case, we have two names that start with an M. We've got Sister Miriam Rao, and Sister Miriam agreed to be a part of this. And one of the things that I was thrilled about is, I think most of you, a number of you know, that in the year 2000, we put together the three areas here in the United States that had separate provinces, and we became one big province together, and since then a region. And I had worked with Miriam as we were going through this particular planning part, and she comes from the Pennsylvania area. And she's moved out here, and she works in one of our ministries out here also. So we're thrilled to death that she's here, and you don't think anymore in terms of this person is from this place and this person. She's here. We're all at home together, and I think that's very important. She works at Villa Maria, which is a skilled nursing care as well as an assisted living. And you do some work in the parish also? No, just both of those, and that's full-time for sure with those. And she's paired up with Monica Deasty, and I've always thought it was interesting that the individuals that we've been having in doing the admissions, the transfer admissions the last number of years are either a Monica or a Morgan. And it just gets me, because we got one Morgan moved to another area and then hired another Morgan. So it's so interesting to me. And I got to know Monica and enjoyed meeting her in the hall and was thrilled that she wanted to be a part of this also. And so I think that it's been an interesting thing for them, so I'm going to invite them up. And I promised Monica that it would not be stressful, so that we didn't want her to be really way ahead of her due date.
Come forward.
And again, there's 2 mics.
Well, hello. I guess I'll go first. Okay. Well, it sounds like everyone was kind of new to the university when they decided to participate in the program. And of course, that was one of the reasons that encouraged me to get involved. I was new to the university. Obviously, I had a professional connection to Newman, but I wanted something that was a little more personal. And I felt like this was a great way to make a new friend and connect with somebody who was involved in the university, not necessarily from a professional standpoint. So got involved, and my preferred method of communication that I put down was getting mail. So I got a really lovely Easter card, and just kind of introducing herself, and she said, you're welcome to email me. I just like to get things in the mail from time to time that's not a bill, so that was really fun. So anyway, so then we connected through email, and we talked back and forth. And as Sister Charlotte said, she works at a nursing home, so her schedule is quite busy as well as mine. So we emailed for a while, but eventually we were able to meet up and have lunch together at the center, which was lovely. The food is very good. And it was a lovely time. I got a tour. And I kind of laughed when Emily mentioned the travel advice, because I had a trip to New York and she spent some time in the area too. So they're great for travel advice. Not going anywhere. So, and then, we kind of connected again through email for the remainder of the summer when I got really, really busy with my job. But we were able to have lunch again just recently, and it was nice to connect in person. Our calendars are kind of hard to sync, but I feel like Friday afternoons, lunchtime are a perfect time for us to reconnect in person, and it's always a joy to be able to spend time with her. So that's why I decided to participate in the program. I think it's a fantastic program, and I look forward to the future for that. One suggestion, you did mention, Sister Charlotte, that we were allowed to suggest this, is maybe having a big gathering of everybody who participates in the program, because we were both mentioning it's so lovely that we have this relationship, but I don't know many other sisters outside of the two of you personally. So, and she was, mentioning how she doesn't know many faculty or staff members, so maybe having everybody in the program get together once a semester for like a big, mentor program gathering would be kind of a neat thing to do. So. Yeah, so I'll turn it over to you and let you talk a little bit.
Thank you. Wow, good. Well, when Sister Charlotte sent this email out, immediately I thought I really would like to get involved. And as she mentioned, we knew each other from previous experiences with our convergence. But at the same time, I knew nothing about Newman, and I had heard about it, like Fran, often. And so when I moved here, I thought, well, I'd like to know more about it. And the best way for me to know something about a place is to have a friend like Monica. And I guess I really am always interested in history, and I believe that we stand on the shoulders of those who went before us. And so I'm always thinking of the sisters who really started. First St. John's came here in 1902. So I went back and read a little bit about that. And then, as Monica said, she and I got together. I think the other thing that to me is so important, Maria was always so pro-education. She believed that education was the key to a better life in so many ways. And so you here at Newman are doing that for the youth of the day. And I think that's where the hope is. And I think today if Maria were here, she would say diversity and care of the planet are really two big objectives, and you have that here. And I think the other thing that I often think about is we do have ASC-sponsored ministries, and I'm privileged to work in one of them. But we sisters are becoming fewer and fewer. And when Jesus said, pray that laborers come into our part of the harvest to promote and bring about the kingdom, it wasn't just priests and sisters. And so I think today the call is really for all of you to take over so much of the work that we used to do. And you have our spirit here, the spirit of St. Maria. And so to me, that is so encouraging and so hope-filled. And finally, because I work with the elderly, and I really appreciate that, but I also wanted to be with younger people and just to meet people from Newman. When I met Monica, like she said, we really did hit it off, and we started talking about her forthcoming trip to New York. The other thing that Monica shared with me soon after that was that she's expecting a baby. Now, in the New York area, I had worked for about 9-10 years with the Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace. And they had started not only a daycare, they also had a place for moms who were unwed to have their babies with them. And so we had the babies while the moms attended high school to get their GED. So while I work with the elderly, I have a real fondness for little babies and little ones. And I was just excited when Monica shared that she's going to have a baby. So I want to thank Sister Charlotte. And the other thing I appreciated was the little survey that we got, because it said something about what the person that we were paired with would like. Like Monica mentioned snail mail. Well, I like that too. And so, but it was one thing I knew about her, and some other things that you had in there. I just think that was really good. So thanks to all of you and to Monica, and my prayers are with her for a safe delivery and good health for you.
Yeah, those are appreciated from anyone.
Thank you.
Fast would be nice. If we're making requests.
Now, I want to thank those 6 people, and let's give them a round of applause. Now, I hope you're asking a question. The question is, so what are you going to do with this thing next? Well, let me tell you. Employees that have been hired since January 1 of 2018 up till and including today, the 12th of September, our 85th birthday, are invited to participate no later than a 9th of October start date. So in other words, there's going to be something that will be sent out, maybe even this week, that will simply invite those individuals, there's 28 that I'm aware of, that will be invited. Those who would like to be a part of it are welcome to do this. And you might simply say, are there any guys? Well, yeah, there were a guy that did do this, and he has since left the university, but he participated and he was having a great time with it. And, you know, we've also lost another person who was paired up with someone and they loved cats together. Well, that particular individual went away to grad school. So, you know, it was a career choice for her. It was not, she was upset with Newman. But anyway, so there's been all kinds of stories. So I just want you to know that's what we're going to do. Why did I choose the 9th of October? I always like to have a date that makes me see that we're going to get it done by then. But that happens to be the feast of John Henry Cardinal Newman, is his feast day. So I thought, oh, okay, we'll do it with that from the 85th birthday. And by the way, this is our 85th anniversary year, so we can expect certain other things that will be happening yet this year in honor of the 85th. The other is to tell you the next piece, because I have heard it from people who have been here and said, why can't I do this? Why is this only for the new employees? Well, because we had to start somewhere and it was a pilot project. So, in addition, during Heritage Month, so February of 2019, everybody who has been here before January 1 of 2017 will be invited to participate. I'm going to have to really shake up the bushes to see how many others I can find that are willing to pair up. So I just wanted you to know that that's the plan in regard to it. So the other thing I want to do is, I think that there's been some questions that people have asked in between. I've got maybe 3 minutes because I got one additional thing that I want to say yet, and that's real brief, but are there anybody who has any questions for any of them or for me? Anything about it? By the way, I can tell you that next in November when the mission talk, what we're going to do for that one is going to be projects, new projects that the Adores are involved in on an international level. Now, we're going to start, though, with a video that some of you probably have seen, and it's a video of Sister Kevin Rooney, who's giving a tour of the windows over there in the chapel. So of the chapel, we're going to start with that, but then we're going to take that to a project she's involved in, which is in the Philippines. That's where it's housed. So we're going to take a look at, and there'll probably be about 3 or 4 of these international programs. The April one is going to be on projects new ministries for the Adores in the U.S. region. So it'll be programs brand new to us that we've not been involved in again. Yes?
Could I say?
Yes.
I just want to thank Sister for doing this. It's really important, and I appreciate it so much. A lot of you are new to Newman and maybe Catholic higher education. To contextualize this a little bit, I've been a part of Catholic higher education now since 1979. And I was at St. Louis U as a new faculty member. And I could have been at any school for the first few years, as far as I knew. But in 1983, we had our first meeting on Jesuit lay collaboration, because the Jesuits, who were the sponsors of that school, recognized that their numbers were declining. And how are we going to keep our Jesuit Catholic identity when we don't have as many priests around? The first national conference for the Jesuits was 1989, where they came together with lay faculty and all of the representatives of the 28 Jesuit schools. The first gathering of all the Catholic colleges and universities was in 1990, when was it? I was dean at St. Thomas, and we had it at St. Thomas. I think it was 1996. So this is part of a conversation, really, that's going on, that we don't have a full-time teaching sister here right now. But we need to know our sponsors and their charism so that we can be the bearers and carry it on to our students going forward. So your enthusiasm for doing this new, folks, I really appreciate it, and I encourage all of you who are also new and old, like me, to think about participating in this program, because the more we know about our sponsors and their charism, the better it is we'll be able to carry it out. I think it's really important, so thank you, sisters.
Now, my final comment.
Sorry.
Unless there's somebody else that got a question.
I didn't plan that, sorry.
It's all right. Anything else? Okay. I want to remind you that we are now going to be, I'm not going to be the person serving it, but there are Adores who have worked very hard. I know that we've had the golf cart out that's been fixed like an ice cream truck, and it's been out on the campus. Did it sound like, did you have the ringer on it? It sounded like an ice cream truck? Yes, Marcia.
I will turn it on when I get out there.
Okay, all right. So,
ice cream on the truck.
right.
We can take you over to the landing for bicycles, popsicles, and make your own sundaes.
Okay, so that's between 1 and 3 o'clock that you're invited to go over there, and it's at the corner of McCormick and All Hallows. And right across, it's actually directly east of Hirochi Hall. So you get an idea of where that's located. And they've been having a great time planning this, I guarantee. Anyway, thanks a lot for coming. I hope you've enjoyed it. Take an extra piece of birthday cake or anything else you like with you. And I made it with 1 minute to spare.